Hey guys, still here and welcome to Wargame Red Dragon on this map which is very rarely played. This is Heartbreak Ridge. I believe it's originally an ALB map, Ireland Battle, and they ported it over to Wargame at some point. Distinctive feature is this big hill here in the middle, which is usually heavily fought over with infantry. And on the sides you got a couple of more, well, slightly more open areas, so this could lend itself to armored warfare, although it's still not that easy. Same side, or same thing on the other side. A bit more open area, but also scattered towns. So again, infantry on infantry warfare. You got these little tree lines which you can use to hide vehicles this can support. And I was operating over here in Echo. Now I'm going to be looking at this from the neutral perspective because I got my ass handed to me by Sashi and, well, escorting players. Sashi got a lot of points, and I really want to figure out what he did and how I can defend it against next time. What I was bringing was a pretty bad deck, because it was Anzac Motorized. Anzac Motorized has some pretty decent infantry, but it has one big thing that it lacks, and that's anti-tank infantry. The anti-tank infantry, I think, caps out at about 18 points, and that's just not enough. You don't do enough damage. So what I find is that there is going to be a Vihor operating in Echo. I just can't kill it. I don't do enough damage to it. The Anzac Motorized deck really lacks an anti-tank capability. It has some really nice fast vehicles, but they just lack punch. And that's, well, that's what did me in, I think. Sashi is going to be bringing tanks, anti-air. He's going to be attacking over there. Pfeiffer is bringing mortars. He's bringing reconnaissance infantry and anti-air. I'm not sure if these guys are coordinating or not. So that's something that might be happening in chat. They might be on Discord. I don't know. Now let's see what he is bringing. I'm going to be switching around from player to player a bit. Sashi has, yep, there's the culprit right there, the Vihor. A couple of Prakas, a BOV-30 and a Prem. That's, well, actually that's not all. He also has Mi-17s and a Gamma. On my flank, I was being assisted, if you will, by Zworok. Although, during the battle, I was heavily questioning the guy's capabilities because he was doing all sorts of weird shit that you're going to see in a minute. So I was really struggling because, well, for the majority of this battle over here on this flank, I was pretty much solo against 2 to 3 players. That is not something that's impossible to survive/win against, but it definitely makes stuff a lot harder. Before I forget to mention it, I've noticed that people are still not subscribed. So if you're one of the people, let's say from the 60%, because that's what the YouTube stats tell me, as part of the 60% of people who watch the vids that are not subscribed, do me a small favor and hit that subscribe button, because that helps my channel grow a bit more. Now, Sashi, flying in with the Gamma, intercepting enemy air assets. Sorry, that's Coco. He's bringing in... Why would you want a Gamma over here? This thing only has 2 Iglas. He's flying in what could be AGS to make sure that whatever goes here immediately gets killed off. Now, I am trying to get there with a couple of Hueys with a reconnaissance team. Sorry, no, with a... What did I have? Commandos, I think? And an ATGM unit. I thought that I was just going to take this position and neutralize anything that comes in. And that's when the Gamma flies in and wipes out my infantry helo. So that leaves just the other one. And that one, fortunately, does not get hit by the Gamma. So the UEs does survive, but the HGM was pretty much useless where it was. Yeah, here we go. Panterovnici. These guys are very accurate, or very adequate against enemy infantry. With 2 HE per shot, 15 rounds a minute rate of fire. They only have 10, but by the time that they fired all of those, they're either dead themselves or their target is dead. Here comes the reinforcements from 5 Fun. Now, my setup over here is a bit haphazard. I have Vickers Mk 11 taking point, which means that they don't really have a recon because I was a bit scatterbrained at this point and found that I was over here alone. There was nobody in this town yet. And Zworok, for some reason, decided to take the long way around. Or was AFK, I don't know. But he spawned in some, well, very few units, very late. So my right flank, or my left flank over here was not covered. I do try to set up an ambush over here. With a Stolly that's, I think, carrying commandos. Or SASR, I'm not exactly sure what I had in there. 5 Fun moving up with the ZSL-56. Yeah, SASR. Very good infantry, but against Panzerovnici, they can struggle a bit. There you go. Every shot that they fire, I lose 2 guys. There's another 2. That was a very close call. I did get him, but the SASR are now very much on the way out, especially once a quad stack, no, not a quad stack, a group of 4 single Lee Ren comes in with their escorts, the 551s. So I try to bring in another Stolly, try to get a bit more defense operating here, because I'm still alone. And I'm fighting off Pfeiffer and Sashi. And over here, who's this? Phantom. Now, I did have Ates on my right flank. And Ates was holding the line and seeing how far he could push up more towards the middle. So he could sometimes provide assistance with covering this town, but the area over here, this was rough. SASR once again in contact with the Lee Ren. And the Lee Ren are just rolling over these guys. Mortars now engaging. My surviving Milan team, that was the one that was supposed to go here, is almost dead. Vior is pushing in very aggressively. This is a bold move. This thing has a good rate of fire, does a lot of damage, but can still be overwhelmed by infantry. Now, at this point, my RBS-70 is way out of position. My SASR over here is dead. And that means that beyond some small units, I have almost nothing. Making matters worse is a quad stack of mortars over here. And if there's one thing that motorized units don't do well, it's taking mortar fire. Because they just don't have armor. Now, again, I don't know what Zworok was doing, because he just sent his vehicles over here and then didn't offload them. I really don't know where his units are. The Vihor fired a couple of rounds, taking out some vehicles here and there. There goes the RBS-70 that I had. Just completely butchered by mortars. The Lee Ren might be spotting some stuff here and there. And Pfeiffer is doing a sort of force recon over here with the ZSL-56. These things are very blind, but what they can do is just roll up to something and see if they get shot at. And currently, they're not really getting shot at up until the point that they're almost in this town. So that they know now that we are very weak over here. Now, they're bringing up reinforcements. At times, I was able to take out the reinforcements with the Vickers. So that by the time that they start to get towards this road, I might be able to take them out with the Vickers. That's what these things are very good at, skirmishing. Taking a couple of sneaky shots and hoping that you can do the damage. Sashi putting up smoke. And, yep, there's one of the other Vickers, immediately wiping out the infantry. Or, sorry, the vehicle, but the infantry survived. With a lack of reconnaissance, though, I can't see the surviving infantry. So I cannot finish them off, otherwise it would have been one more shot. My Vickers does get detected, so now I have to move it. Which I don't believe I do, but they just obscure line of sight with one smoke screen. And then they rain death on it with a couple of mortars. And as you can see, with 2 side armor, this thing... Well, so far it's holding its own, but it really doesn't like that treatment. It's getting stunned already. Zworok trying to flank with Fliegerfaust of all things. Almost getting the MI1. Now he's pushing forward with 15 Kartiniekri over here, and this is Phantom again. See, this is just utter shit. I should have pulled these guys back. I really, really misplayed this. But unfortunately, this was a tactical, and I did not really have the points to bring in a lot of units. And besides, I knew that I was alone, so defending this area was probably going to be a lot safer than actually going on the offensive. Now, Milan fired once, hit the Vihor, and just notice how little damage that did. That was 1 point of damage. That's all. I have a couple of mortars of my own. They're currently working over the Liren over here, insofar as I can see them. But at this point, there's a lot more of them than there are of my forces. I still have some Emros over here. They're pretty much the counterpart to the Panzerovnici, and they do about the same damage and have about the same stats. They're very good at quickly wiping out enemy infantry. But the problem that I had is that I just did not field enough of them. I couldn't field them fast enough because they just kept dying. Especially with the Vihor firing back at them. And these guys having an utterly inadequate range. I couldn't get rid of the Vihor. And I couldn't get rid of the infantry fast enough. Now, I didn't move my mortars in time, so my mortars got punished for that. Zwarok is now pushing with a Sappor's team. Oh my god. Yeah, no wonder that didn't work out. Look at this ZSL though. The Emros jump around to finally catch it and kill it, but that took me lots of time. So that already told him that I'm fairly weak in this area, and that he should not really need that much units, or that many units to bring this whole town down. Again, the Vickers takes a shot, misses the XA-185. Reacquires, shoots again. Eventually, there you go, now it's dead. The other Vickers over here has died, of course. The LAV has died, the other LAV has died. And at this point they have very little in the sense of actual infantry that they can push with. I'm already bringing in some more Stollies, and to my great surprise, Zwarok is bringing in a triple Leopard 2A4 combination. With almost no reconnaissance, at least none of his own. He has no infantry to guard this town. He has no HGMs to secure this position from any vehicles that come in. And he does have some AA in the form of a Fliegerfaust and a Flakpanzer Gepard that he's keeping active, by the way. So that again is very, very risky. Nighthawk comes in from Mr. Pie. Drops on a potentially former position that the enemy was occupying, but doesn't actually get a kill. Right, so what I should have done over here was start reinforcing. And that's what I am doing. But I'm thinking, should I have pulled back here? If I had pulled back from this town and Red had occupied it faster, then they could start fielding HGMs from here and start shutting down this whole area. Then pushing through here, there, and potentially starting to flank towards Alpha, which is my spawn zone. So the way that I was looking at it is that this town is something that I could not afford to give up. I had to keep it. So I just kept pouring infantry and infantry and infantry into it. And it was a tactical, so I didn't have that many points to do it with. It was a tactical with, I think, high income. So it means that you're getting more points than you normally are. But it was still on the low end. And I could not really kill these guys as fast as they were being brought in. Especially considering that I'm facing more than one player. That makes it quite a bit more tricky to keep everything suppressed. Once again, Cartinieri pushing. Emros pushing right into them. For a second I thought that the Emros couldn't actually get the kill here because they were in the same building. So I pulled them out of the building. And then I noticed that, no, they are in fact using that Carl Gustav. So I put them back into the building, and the Cartinieri do start going down. But of course there's more, because now there's a sissy team pushing in. Over here on the far right, unsurprisingly, the Leopard 2A4s are having a hard time. They're just getting killed off by Malyutka 2Ms, of all missiles. Terrible range, but the guy doesn't have anything to counter it, and the Gepard has already died. So I was not really expecting any sort of counter-offensive from Zwarok and this side. Judging by my own gameplay here, I'm bringing in Fliegerfaust. No, Attis is bringing in Fliegerfaust. I'm bringing in another Aslav. Another thing with the motorized deck is that all these Stollies, they don't really have anything. They're transports, but they don't even carry a machine gun, so that makes them particularly useless once they have actually used their transport capability, because they cannot provide any kind of fire support. Now, Attis is trying to assist with a couple of Fliegerfaust, but they arrive at the time when all my infantry was dead, immediately offloading a couple more MRAWs, trying to help out the Fliegerfaust. I just need to get eyes on this Recon team. Unfortunately, Etas occupies the building, kind of blocking the position from the MRAWs. The next building over is over there, which is not really ideal. And what's worse is that there's 20 Specialny Yatnotki 90 coming in. And the VHOR is standing by to shoot anything that needs fire support. Like, in this case, the MRAWs. The MRAWs, I think, did wipe out the Sissy over here, but beyond that, they were not quite capable of dealing with Specialny yet. I take mortar fire. I pull my vehicles out, but again, if I lose these, it doesn't really matter. Airstrike comes in from the Nighthawk. And the Nighthawk does wipe out a good number of Specialny. But in the meanwhile, my commandos had already taken a fair beating and could not push these guys out. So I'm trying to get them back, trying to get them healed up. But I just could not get them out of the town fast enough. The MRAWs, however, come to the rescue. They force the Specialny to fall back, allowing the commandos for a moment to get a bit of respite and hopefully get healed up. Trying to bring in more fire support vehicles, SLF 25 FSV, which is the wrong unit, by the way. I should have used the Recon variant because it has the same stats, only better. It has a, what was it again? I think very good Recon or good Recon. Mr. Pie's coming in with a longbow? Are you mental? I'm sorry I'm a bit salty in this replay analysis, but I was really getting pissed off with my teammate over here. Insofar as you can call that. Oh, now you need help. Yeah, no shit. He's not the only one who needs help, because my MRAWs are once again getting pushed out of the town. I did bring in a fresh squad, and I got more commandos. But against Granatomets, I'm going to start losing infantry very, very quickly. Fortunately, so do they. So the Granatomets immediately get reduced to 4 guys. I try to push him with the MRAW and the commandos, smelling weakness on the part of the Granatomets. Unfortunately, there's another fresh squad of Cartoniekri, so it's going to be another 15 guys that need killing. And this way, we just kept juggling for position over here. And sometimes Red got a couple of buildings, sometimes I got a couple of buildings back. It was just going back and forth the whole damn time. There is another Aslav coming in with more infantry, and just look at all these useless transports. If these had been Israeli transports, or, well, M113s for all I care, they could have done a lot more work. They could have been, let's say, over here or potentially over here supporting. If it wasn't for the fact that there's a VHOR over there. And that VHOR will shut down almost anything. Now at this point the Vickers on the flank is coming in very useful. Trying to suppress any units that come in. And they are getting kills. The looks like the Strela died upon arrival. So when the vehicle got destroyed, the Strela also died. The other Strela team I'm not too worried about. Although at the time I didn't know they were Strela. They could have been anything. I have 7 commandos left versus 3 Granatomet. That can still go either way, judging by how fast these guys can output damage against infantry. There's another commandos. I think my 1 mortar is not quite being used enough. I should have used more mortar fire support. Vickers once again trying to come out, but at this point it was also being threatened by the T-80. So I wasn't too eager on squaring off with the T-80. Just firing 1 shot at the BMP, and then I noticed the T-80 too late, and I lose the Vickers. So sure enough, it was useful while it lasted, but now I have nothing to counter this T-80. I should have placed ATGMs into these positions a lot earlier, to just more or less shut down this field, so that if a T-80, like it is now, is supporting the town, it would get flank shots from ATGMs, which would probably kill it. Now, Cartoniekri is still pushing through. We got the OT-64Cs, the Vidras. That's autocannon material, by the way. So, I was really not having a good time. Sashi pushes forward with the Praka. The VHOR is still here, although not being used excessively. But now it is pushing up. If it gets to here, I'm going to have a far harder time. Because once this guy gets spots on whatever I have here, all my supply lines towards this town are going to get, well, they're going to be impossible. because I just cannot get the vehicles here safely. And that's going to cost me a lot of forces. So I never should have allowed them to get here, but I just had the completely wrong deck. And that allowed me to not counter this unit, this Vihor. And quite a few others as well. Had this been a, well, let's say maybe an Anzac General deck would have already made a difference. I wouldn't have been able to field infantry that was as good, because they didn't have the same veterancy levels. But at least I would have been able to get a bit more anti-tank capability. Even a Leopard at close range can do damage. Against a Vihor, that is. Now at this point, JD-10 is supplying some forces over here. Zworok is also providing forces, and they're actually pushing back against Sashi and Pfeiffer over here. So finally something was happening here that was potentially drawing away a little bit of the pressure over here. At this point I have almost nothing left. 3 commandos, 5 commandos and 1 MRAW. But the enemy is not pushing. That is, they're not pushing that side, but now they're starting to eliminate forces here. And just notice how quickly that Vihor wiped out the Aslav, fires 1 or 2 shots, and then pulls back into cover. He constantly keeps this thing moving, and we just could not get it spotted long enough to take it out from the skies. And we tried. There were Apaches, there were longbows, there were aircraft like the F-18, but we just could not see it. Another triple stack arrives from, or not, sorry, I keep calling them triple stacks, but they're just 3 units. Luzandui 90. Shock-trained infantry. And against the MRAW, it is not a fair fight. These guys will just roll over them. And the MRAWs will get a couple of kills, but it's not going to be enough. Now I bring in an additional mortar. Here it is. I now have 2 mortars together. Hoping that with those 2, I might be able to make life a little easier on the infantry. So that anything that gets moved into this area, it immediately gets shot at. But it is kind of contingent upon me spotting stuff, and that's not something that was happening. So what I should have done over here was bring more reconnaissance units, and maybe not so much focus on the mortars. But I was constantly starved for points. I was constantly spending almost everything that I had. And with the tactical being the way that it is, you just don't really have the points that you need. Especially when you're almost solo trying to defend against 2 or 3 players, with of course 2 to 3 times the amount of income. And sure enough, Pfeiffer and Sashi are also trying to fend off on the right, although they seem to be more defensive oriented and trying to make more use of offense over here, which I think is the right idea, because I really need this road, whereas they don't really need this position. It's nice to have this overwatch from the hilltop or from the ridge. But beyond that, it doesn't really give them that much of a bonus. So if they can push this side, like they're doing, and this is absolutely the right thing to do, they can shut down all the infantry that's coming down this road. There goes another Martyr VTS. The Vihor has almost fired all of its ammo. And now the MRAWs are getting into contact with the Luzandui. Mortars are already targeting this position. The Sapeurs are trying to push forward. It's not necessarily a bad unit, but I think you're going to need more than just 1 squad. Light Riflemen with their M240 also trying to fight off against Luzandui. And the mortar shells are now more or less arriving at the position where the Luzandui were a minute ago. At some point, however, I forget to move these things enough, the mortars, and they die. I lose all of them. That was a complete misplay on my part. I should have kept them moving, and I didn't, and I get punished for it, as I should have been. A couple more Aslavs coming in. Elites. So this is SASR that's being brought in. Those could at least temporarily put up a bit of a fight against the Luzandui. But against the Vihor, once again, they're going to struggle. They have an anti-tank weapon that does 18, much like the MRAW. And it's just a Carl Gustav M2. It just does not do enough damage. At least for the moment, the Vihor is not actively disrupting the supply lines here. But what they are doing is taking up more and more positions here. They're definitely preparing for an offensive. And Phantom is now seeing or more or less probing the line, seeing how far I can get, and finding that there's not a lot of resistance here. So the commandos are going to die out very quickly. There we go. And now they have perfect vision on whatever I have back here, and whatever I am bringing in. Sissy, for some reason, being outside of the building, taking a bit of mortar fire, jumping back into the building, and once again completely safe. Not a lot that I could do. Let's see, what else am I bringing? Yeah, Stollies are now coming here. Along this long road there. Oh, sorry, it's not the SASR, it's the Commander's 90. Same thing though, 18 AP. It's just not enough. You just don't have the numbers. Sorry about that. You just don't have the firepower that you need to take out the V-Horde. Pfeiffer bringing in what's... Damn it. Okay, that was a little weird. I'm either fighting cuffs or I'm having hiccups or whatever. The whole throat situation is not quite fixed yet. And that just made it into the video twice. And on top of that, my wife was laughing from the corner of my eye. She's sitting at the table trying to contain her laughing. And I tried to keep a poker face and just... I couldn't do that, so I had to pause the video for a sec. Anyway, Red 4 has taken up the buildings over here. I'm basically just waiting for the ATGM teams to show up. And beyond that, for the AA to reposition, like this, to a position where they can intercept any sort of air support that I might expect from teammates. My own aircrafts were, well, once I saw these Prakas, and I did see them at some point. I saw this one and I saw the other one. I didn't even consider sending an aircraft, because a Praka does a lot of damage. Does not really have a lot of ammo. That's their limiting factor. But they are probably pretty easy to resupply. Especially considering that all they need to do is drive back here. Pick up stuff from a supply truck. And, well, I couldn't intercept those either way. I do have another Vickers, but no spotter. Well, beyond what I have in this town. Interestingly, the Vickers was able to see, I think, the Beryusas. And these two Beryusas by B. Radley are now taking fire from the Vickers. 78% chance to hit. Unfortunately, the first shot misses. Second shot does not and wipes out one of the Vickers. Sorry, one of the Beryusas. These, however, are not really big of a threat. It's more harassing enemy lines that the Anzac Vickers unit does really well. But beyond that, they don't hold their own. They're not supposed to hold their own against a tank. Now, artillery is now striking my my bunch of Stollies over here. The only unit that's actually providing some support, or can provide some support, is the Aslav PC, because it does come with an M2. But survivability on these things is not great. 2 frontal armor, 2 side armor, and that's it. They're very fast, they are amphibious, and maybe I should have used that more. I was considering doing a sort of semi-amphibious assault, either partially through the forest here, or over the lake. But I was too concerned that they might already have ATGM units inside this town, that I just couldn't get in there. Now Zorok drives in with an M42A1, and Mr. Pi drops off a couple of, what is that, Delta? Yeah, 20 Delta Force, which immediately start to wipe out the Sissy. So they should be able to push back a little bit, but that's not all that Red has over here. There's another 21 Strelki, and there's more infantry being brought in, which are, of course, elite. So the Delta Force are going to have a pretty hard time. Also, because the V-Horde is still in position and is still capable of shooting any building that the Delta Force jump to. Now 20 Podobranchi is a bit much for the Delta Force to chew out. So I expect these guys to start dying very quick. And once again, there's just not that much that we can do. With the limited income that I have, I'm trying to bring in more infantry. And mostly just try to hold this forest. Making sure that the V-Horde could not achieve this position. From where it could start neutralizing the whole road. And also my mortars. So I was not really thinking of pushing back into this territory. Nor was there any communication here from Mr. Pi, who said, hey, I'm going to try to make a counter push. So I had no idea that he was trying to rush in. And, well, if I had known, I'm not even sure if I would have assisted him. Because I think it's not the right play here. It's currently far easier for Red 4 to supply this town over here, this industrial area, with more infantry than it is for us. So is there any real point to trying? Sure enough, smoke screens could have helped. Just smoke down the position, rush in the vehicles, and maybe capture a building or two. And then smoke out here. But it's a tactical, so you don't have that much income available. Delta Force currently still fighting off a couple of transports, but at this point the transport's out of range. And the Brendryen now come hunting. And with 19 Brendryen versus 3 Delta Force operators, it's going to be over very quick. Zworok bringing in a couple of Mortar VTS-1s. I'm not sure if he knows how to use these because they're fire support units at medium to great range. Not to be driven into the forest where enemy vehicles or where enemy infantry is hiding, especially if it's Brendryen. He knows that these guys are here because they have already been in contact with the Delta Force, not once but twice. First kicking them out of the town and then pursuing them outside of the town and into the forest. So he really had no excuse for losing all those units. He does fly in with the Super Itendar, which naturally gets shot down because of the Praka and the QW1, and yeah, he does more, or sorry, JD10 marks up the AA. There's really not that much that we could do about it at this point. Beyond maybe firing my mortars. I'm firing the mortars at the last known position of the Praka, which was, I think, either here or I saw it moving to there. But these things moved around a bit faster than I had expected. And the mortars just, well, they start plowing over a field, but beyond that do nothing. And here's what I was expecting. The Conquerors team. Once these guys make it to the front line, they can shut down the whole field. You don't even need to have the Vihor in a forward position. If you have Concourse, you can just do the same thing. I now have 2 Vickers on the sidelines. Once again, ready to intercept anything. They're not huge investments, they're just 45 points. And they are pretty quick to recoup that investment if they fire and kill a couple of infantry transports. Hopefully with infantry inside. And sometimes they do get lucky and they achieve that. But beyond that, these two were mostly there as a sort of flank defense. And of course, trying to push back here, as I'm trying to do now, is useless. Commandos 90 are trying to push forward. There's a whole bunch of Luzandui and Legion. Not the 90s, so it's not the napalm throwers, but still dangerous. SASR are able to neutralize a Praka that's moving remarkably far forward. I'm not really sure why. And I think that, yeah, the mortars from Pfeiffer are currently still shelling the town over here from Etes and myself. They really wanted this town as well. Phantom and... no, it's just Phantom. Phantom's trying to push on this town. So we're getting pushed here as well. Although at least this position was holding for the time being. The far right, or my far left... I'm not sure what's holding this flank together, but it's not the Avengers. There's one Ranger team, and once this Moderna notices that that is all that there is, all he needs to do is push. Main gun, autocannon, spotter from the Specialny, and you wipe out everything here. Very easy. Looks like the HGM team tried to get a shot. I'm not sure if the Moderna killed an Avenger, but I thought there were 4 a moment ago. Now, at this time, I tried to push with the Commandos. Commandos immediately got countered by all the Luzandui. And my mortars are firing too far behind the infantry and not doing any kind of damage. So the Commandos are dead. SASR are now trying to put up a new line. I know that these guys are going to die, but at least I might be able to take some of them with me if I make sure that the Luzandui stop, which they didn't. So Pfeiffer played this perfectly, and he never kept these guys still for long enough time for me to shoot them with the mortars. Legion over here, encountering Rangers and Delta Force. And there's an airstrike coming in from an Aardvark, and a Mirage 110 from myself. These things don't carry high capacity bombs, they're just 227s, but they can be used in a sort of semi-carpet bombing role. And potentially push the infantry back. Although this airstrike seemed to land almost on top of the Luzandui. And there was just enough of an opening here that they actually survived. They didn't seem to get hit at all. And seriously, with no HGM vehicles, and I'm not even sure why I don't have an SLF TOW 2 in my deck. I should have that, but again, my deck is not set up properly, nor is it the right deck for this particular map. I don't really have any counter to the Vihor. Beyond that, if I did have an SLF 25 TOW 2 over here, or any other TOW 2 vehicle, it remains to be seen whether I could get a line of sight on this Vihor for long enough and stay alive for long enough to counter it. Now, I was thinking about this battle for quite a while after it happened, and I thought that if I'd had a French deck, or French-German, so Eurocorps, it would have probably been quite a bit easier. Because Legion 90 are far more capable of dealing with infantry, and beyond that, far more capable of dealing with vehicles. So what they can do is take up a position over here and start to neutralize any vehicle that gets within 1,000 meters. But I didn't have those, so I was trying to make do. Points-wise, we're not even doing that poorly. Red is definitely doing very well here, but they're not doing very well on the left. And the battle is 6880 for blue versus 6955, now 7,000 for red. So it's actually really quite close. But now the Vihor is going to settle a score that it has had for quite a while with the mortars. I had no idea it was pushing out this far. And it's wiping out all the mortars that I still had. So 3 mortars die on the spot. 1 sort of uses the terrain and is kind of able to escape using the amphibious capability. But the Vihor is now murdering whatever I have... No, sorry, whatever my ally has over here, which is Delta Force. And I think another Stolly or 2 of mine. So there was nothing there. So Rock Brinzing... A Leopard 1A4 and once again a Flakpanzer M42A1. That's the terrible anti-air unit. I really don't know what he was trying to do there. I'm also trying to bring in some more Stollies with anti-air because Red Force anti-air was getting significantly aggressive. But not so much over here, but here, in this town. So what these units are going to do is not reinforce this flank, but they're going to reinforce this area, making sure that any jet that gets too close is going to get hit by the RBS-70. And they do have a decent range against planes. I would like it to be a little better, but okay. This is what I have, so I gotta make do with 2100 meter range. And with a 4 HE, you're gonna have to hit them quite a few times. Fortunately, they carry 8 missiles. You're gonna need that. Also because their accuracy is not great at 45%. So more like strength in numbers. I have a couple of Aslav PCs with infantry inside here, and I'm keeping those in reserve. Because I was hoping to do a flanking fire, or a flanking operation. Pushing from here to there. So coming into this town from the side. And the Vickers is trying to get a couple of shots in, but I just couldn't see anything. I could not see any units over here. Now, the Vickers is unable to kill the Vidra. This whole throat situation is really starting to fucking annoy me now. At this point of the battle, there is not really that much that we can do against Red Force aggression. So the plan that I have is mostly to keep control of this town for the last... well, the last couple of moments of the battle. There's, as you can see in the replay counter, there's about 6 minutes left. And, well, depending on what's going to happen first, it's either 24 minutes on the timer or 10,000 points. And it's going to be Red's 10,000 points. Red, courtesy, I think, partly of the Vihor, was capable of wiping out a lot of points over here. And now Red is ahead by 600 points. If they're ahead by 10% of our points, or theirs, I never quite know what it is. If there's a point difference of 10%, then it's going to be not a draw, but a minor victory for them. And they're now ahead by 800 points, so they now do look at a minor victory. Now, the last moments of the battle, they keep trying to push here. I don't really have much other than an NZSCS squad. And against Commandosi, that's a bit underwhelming. So the commandos that I was planning on sending over to this town are now getting pushed into service here. And, well, they don't really arrive at the right time because the whole area is being set afire. And with that, I don't really have too many buildings that I can still use. This one is partially on fire, but not too much. So the commandos for the moment are safe here, if you want to call this town safe. Reneko and 5 commandos have survived. And I believe we were... There we go. I'm running more airstrikes on this town now. I'm getting some return from an Ito 90 and a Grom. And there goes my jet. But at this point, I just didn't really care too much anymore. I knew that we were already going to lose the battle. And that Red was going to push here. Or here. And that there was not really that much that we could do against it. No matter how many units I fielded, they just had too much stuff putting pressure on this town. For the moment, we're holding it. But this point difference was really unnerving. And, well, I had already lost the battle in my head. So the actual loss of the battle was only a matter of time. 3 minutes left. And the Brendryen have now moved up to here. And are wiping out vehicles once again. Zwolrock pushing in with Martyr VTS-1s in a very direct role. Which is not what they're designed to do. Brendryen wiping them out very easily. It's just feeding points like there's no tomorrow. Now, I was feeding in this battle as well. A lot, by the way, as you're going to see. But seeing stupid plays like that, when you're already really on the defensive, is not inspiring. Not at all. And Kita, who was supposed to be in this battle, but dropped out at the start because he had some sort of disconnect. He was even commenting on the Discord saying how salty I was because I was talking over the battle with Etes, who did have a good fight. He did get a lot of points, and he also got a positive score. Kita noted how I was a lot more salty than I normally am. Because I was getting pushed back so heavily and not getting the kind of support from teammates that I'm pretty much used to. Because I'm used to operating in a unit of about 4 to 5 on Discord. And we try to have each other's back as much as possible. Either using air, artillery, infantry to fill in the gaps. Whatever it is, we try to support each other. And Etes was trying to support me. That's absolutely true. But over on the right... Hot damn. Zwolrock was not helpful. Not at all. Look at how aggressive these Super Pumas are currently. They are getting shot down currently by Block 52. There are 2 Avengers over there, but the fact that they are this aggressive shows that they're just trying to test the lines and seeing what sort of opening they can use in order to get the last 600 points that they can get. At this point, the town that I was defending alongside with Etes is falling. There's 52 Commandosi currently, 30 Commandosi still in this town, and there is more incoming. Commandosi are falling back here, but there's another couple of MIATs which are ready to offload. And at this point, this town was just screwed. Insofar as these guys even have the time to arrive, because Red already has 9,665 points versus our 8,270. Now, overall analysis, what did not help me is that I had the wrong deck. And with the wrong deck, you can only do so much. So that Anzac deck that I had, the Anzac Motorized, I'm going to delete that because it is just shit, or at least it was shit in this situation. There are potentially other situations that it's better at, but this time around, it did not work for me too well. If I'm going into this town ever again, I'm going to use units which have far better anti-tank capability. Could be the Brendryen 90, if I'm Red. Could be the Legion 90, so Legionnaires from the French. And just better overall infantry on infantry warfare. And more importantly, high-end anti-tank capability. Because this Vihor has survived the entire battle. And it's done quite a bit of damage. Now, I cannot show you how much damage it did, because I'm not following Sashi. So the game is not counting the kills from him. But this guy was really a thorn in my side. If not in a direct damage role, then at least in a sort of threat role. Because I knew it was always around. It was always prowling and trying to get kills on my vehicle, so I had to play extra careful not to lose too many units here. So, definitely well done to Sashi and Faifan. These guys really made my life hard here. Oh, and I think it was Phantom as well. Phantom 1892. These guys really did a really, really good job here. And I salute them for it. I just got my ass handed to me, and I deserve that. Because they played a lot better than I did. Now, here's the kill list. Or rather, the score list. I got 1,000 points in kills and 1,655 points in losses. So I was definitely feeding. But this is worse. 240 versus 1,950. This is what happens if you send units to their death when you're deploying units in a role that they're just not good for. Like the Mortar VTS, like the M42s. It's just not the right way to play. Ates did play well. 1725 in kills, 935 in losses. But just wait until you see Sashi. 1,943 points in kills. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those kills of his were losses of mine. And 395 points lost. He really did well. Faifan, same thing. 2183 versus 525. And Phantom, 608, 455. So again, well done. Anyway, I hope that this goes to show that the wrong deck in the wrong situation can really make it very hard. And having teammates which might as well not be there would have also made quite the difference. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. I could have approached this differently, and I should have approached this differently, and I just wanted to highlight that. So let me know what your thoughts are, and I shall see you guys soon for more replays, or, well, potentially live gameplays, depending on what sort of thing I have, and if it's worth showing. Thank you guys for watching. See you soon.